Hello and welcome. Uh, why is Restream? No. All right, Restream shut down. Let's try that again. Huh. Sorry about that. Everything should be back to single posts. So, I hope you all have had a good weekend. You've all enjoyed yourselves. I fought with X and have for now disabled the premium because Grok refused to let me talk to an actual person to fix my issue. He kept saying, most of these problems can be solved on your own. Well, I've done everything possible and just said, nope, okay, I am canceling my Twitch premium, so we will not Twitch, my Twitter premium, so we will not be streaming to Twitter anymore for the foreseeable future until they fix that. I've decided to give the sub to Beam for their multi-streaming, which should cut down on the amount of ads that you see there. Though I am monetized there, so you'll probably still see some ads. That was the only thing that I was paying Twitter /X/ whatever for. I don't use Grok for anything. I know that Grok is one of the AI, the big like Chat GPT competitor, but no, I use either Brave Leo or self-hosted. I see that comment. Yeah, I think I've only used Grok like one time because I was out and about and didn't have my AI server online or something. I don't remember. I think, but point is, I think I've only ever used Grok like once. But yeah. So we should all be online. Trying to think what as a heads up, Nintendo's Joy-Cons are experiencing drift already. As a reminder, in the United States, several states, one of which is California, so be safe. You can take a company to arbitration and make them pay for it. So, as Switches are bricking themselves, experiencing mechanical issues, and not playing games that they're supposed to be able to play, you can make Nintendo pay for all the litigation. Those are like two different songs, I think. Wait, no, I don't think either of those go to the Piano Man tune, actually. Huh. Um, actually, for self-hosted, I may throw together like a video or something for or guide or do like a stream talking about the Tallyman song. I have not heard it. Um, because you can set up basic self-hosted AI really easy these days. I've mentioned LM Studio before as like a just literally download and click option. But now with these really, really small, hyper efficient AIs, you can run them on some real potatoes and still get a functional AI out of them. I was just playing with it today with a Junker portable that was running on an Intel N100 with only 12 gigs of DDR4, I think, which was split 6 for the RAM, 6 for the GPU, which the N100's doing both. So real junker of a little laptop in terms of power. And running a tiny little version of Minstrel. I think it was Minstrel. It was actually, it'd sit there and think for 5, maybe 10 seconds, and then it actually spit out an answer. So we are officially at the point where you can actually use old laptops and old desktops to run fairly light but still functional AIs, self-hosted. So yay! Which of course, a link in Discord for what? LM Studio? Oh, for the song. No one's paying attention to me, of course. Why does that not surprise me? So you're talking about AI and no one cares. And it's not even AI art. It's like just AI. Anyways. But yeah, I prefer that over stuff like Grok. Among other things, it means I'm not feeding their servers information. I'm just feeding my own AI, making my own little Skynet for everyone to play with. Had the same thought. All right, okay, fine. If we're not patient, we're moving on. I don't think I have any other news, and I'm just spiraling right now. Well, I mean, I have news, but I don't feel like talking about that stuff. You know what? I am going to address something real quick. I skipped out on talking about it last time. I've seen some stuff talking about VR, and we're not going to dig too deep into who was saying what. I just want to say the primary arguments against VR that I saw, one is that it's expensive. Of course it's expensive, but the price has massively come down already. But the argument, well, VR is expensive, so no one should pay for it till it's cheaper. How do you think it gets cheaper? You have to have some people willing to pay for it. Instead of going, oh, this is just a luxury item for the rich, which right now it's just a luxury item for the people willing to make bad decisions. It's not even just for the rich anymore. People that make bad decisions can afford it too. But demand going up, people buying it, is what causes the price to go down. So trying to argue that no one should buy VR until the price gets cheaper, all that's going to do is make people stop making VR stuff. And then the other one is another one that's like, oh no, VR takes space. Yeah. And there's a lot of ways around it. Not everyone needs a full room. I mean, you can do VR from a chair. And I like how he's making that well, I think they are making that complaint while also complaining about needing to do physical activity while using VR. It's kind of like, pick an argument. Is it bad because it takes a full room, or is it bad because it takes physical activity? You get to pick one. And again, you can still technically VR with neither. In fact, I've seen far more people doing VR things from a chair than I have actually doing any standing things. With the only people doing standing things being either VTubers like Fillion, who runs into her walls all the time, and also has an absolutely obscene VR budget from how many things she has broken, um, or the high end VR content creators who that is their thing. Those are the people that I've seen doing the full physical stuff the most. There is so much VR stuff out there where it is someone either in a very small room or even just like playing, from their chair at their desk, where it's like a hybrid between hand and controller controls setups. So, and this is coming from someone that does not have room for VR. And what Rippy is actually mentioning what my solution was. Now, the harness I'm seeing, are getting interesting. Yeah. And that's the other big point which plays into all three of these points, which is why I saved it to the end, which is VR treadmills. 10 years ago, if you wanted a VR treadmill, it was like 20 to 30 grand. You can get them for under $1,000, which, yes, is still expensive. $899 or something in that neighborhood is still a very expensive piece of equipment. But it's not as expensive as other things people have put a lot of money into. And it does two things, assuming you get the correct kind of treadmill. I'm thinking something like the Cat VR. One, it eliminates most of the space demand because it takes a relatively small, like 5x5, not even 5x5. I don't have 5x5. I think I have 3x3 in terms of actual floor space where it is. Maybe 4x4. No, that might be 5x5. Anyways, and makes it infinite. It takes the space it sits on and makes it infinite. So it completely eliminates the space area. It can help. Okay, no, I take it back. It's not going to help with the physical activity thing. It's called a VR treadmill. It is not as smooth or easy as walking. It does provide more resistance than actual walking and movement around because of the harness. But that can also be a safety thing because it keeps you from hurting yourself in many ways because it holds you in place. And again, the prices massively come down. And the big comparison that I'm going to make here is exercise equipment. It is sub $1,000. How many people spend $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 on one of those home gym, home exercise, stepper, treadmill, elliptical, whatever type machines? Use it twice, and then it sits there, and it becomes a clothes hanger. Is not the investment in a VR setup something that, one, in many cases costs less, and two, arguably for a lot of people is going to see way more use and thus better encourage them to get some physical activity, which, yeah, it's not a full proper exercise equipment. You can't crank it up, but it is going to provide some resistance. It is going to get you moving. It is going to be a functional physical activity, which I think is a good thing. And with my eyes finally, I think, starting to settle, that I've been saying I'm going to get back to it. My final equipment finally, replacement parts finally came in, so I'm going to get going again. But yeah, it's like, 1, physical activity isn't a bad thing. 2, expensive, but there's worse decisions people make. 3, motivation. 4, eliminate space issue. Like, I could tell you right now, back when I was living in my tiny little apartment, I would have had space for that. It would have taken some moving around, but I would have had space for it. Admittedly, it would have taken some moving around. So that's just a very, very quick answer that no one's going to see on some of the VR complaints that I saw recently that are like, you kind of feel like someone complaining to complain. Anyways. Now ramble actually over. I now definitely don't have more to dig into, so we're going to do a reaction. I promise we will return to Valkyria Chronicles, but for now we're doing Brandon Herrera. The real Jawa Blaster, British grenade launcher pistol. I forgot to charge my panel, darn it. So yeah, we return these regular ones. Like I said, I promised Valkyria Chronicles will come in, but it's Brandon Herrera. Lee Enfield.
Good morning, Starshine. The galaxy says hello. This is the Lee Enfield. Chambered 303 British. This was the main British infantry.
Oh, he's holding it wrong. He's holding it wrong. Who here knows what he's doing wrong? He's actually holding it wrong and proving Lindy Beige wrong at the same time. According to Lindy Beige, you do not naturally hold a gun like that. Yeah, he's pulling the trigger with his forefinger. With the Lee Enfield, you pull the trigger with your middle finger and hold the ball with your forefinger and thumb. And then again, Lindy Beige thinks that you cannot physically hold a gun the way that he is currently holding it, in particular with his left hand. That's just a pet peeve that has bugged me ever since I heard him talking about it.
Good morning, Starshine. The galaxy says hello. This is the Lee Enfield. Chambered 303 British. This was the main British infantry rifle from World War I, World War II, and beyond. Now this is also a Lee Enfield. But if you also didn't touch a boob until well after middle school, you might know it as the Jawa Blaster. But this is much more than just a cursed, cut-down Lee Enfield with a tube on the end. This actually has a very interesting and rich history, and we're going to go into that a little bit, but we're also going to shoot it. We've got a bunch of fun little projectiles for this thing today, so let's have some fun.
It is not an Obras. Obras's must be Mosin's. It is just a nightmare.
Now, so what we're using to launch projectiles out of this thing is basically just run-of-the-mill 303 British blanks. There's no bullet in it. We can load that up in our gun, chamber it, and then when we fire it, it's going to build enough pressure to launch whatever projectile we want out the front of the gun and toward the target. Now, originally the big boys were made for launching smoke grenades. This one here, I'm told, was meant for launching actual hand grenades. Rip this blank out of here real quick. Apparently you just stick a sabot in and then a live grenade in the top, pull the pin, and just fucking let her rip. Hey, shit ass. Yep, so you load your projectile.
I have some concerns about that plan.
And then it's actually way brighter than I thought it would be. Blanks were fun. Now, in the original Star Wars film, this was used to capture droids.
Ion blaster.
Now, since we don't have a custom load for that date rapey blue shit, seriously, I'm about as pro-gun as they come, but if that thing existed in real life, I don't think I'd trust anybody with it. But in lieu of that,
There are some concerns. Up to's response before the Brandon video. Oh, crap. Okay, yeah, that's... I don't think I can do anything about that, but oof.
we're gonna have to capture droids in a more practical way. All right, Nick, so what do we have here besides a BDSM dream catcher?
Well, I just made this so I
I
could feel
didn't
like
need
a
that image.
festival girl, really, but so we got a chain around the edge that provides some of the weight. Hopefully, with this rifling on the wad itself, we can get a little bit of a spin to it, which is going to hopefully push this chain on the outside, keep the net open.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like a rifled slug because the tube itself doesn't have any rifling, it's all smoothbore. We're hoping that the Sabo is going to be able to make up for that.
I'm
I
not
think
sure
that's
that...
the end of the hammer you're supposed to use. Good enough for sand people.
I'm not sure that that's long enough to even get that rifling
Now that we have our
going,
net
though.
loaded, it's probably a good time to explain this.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Looking for something. There is a different firearm attachment that acts exactly like this that I just realized is really easy to get, assuming you know what it's called, which I apparently don't. Here we go. Sound mitigation devices, which are not silencers and they're not suppressors. What they are is just an open can like that, with the idea that taking the spherical blast from a firearm and making it a cone going forward. They are literally enloudners. And I just realized that if I can get this, here we go. That they are functionally small V's. And I'm suddenly sitting here wondering, could you use these as tiny launchers? Could you use these as tiny launchers? Just a thought, as my right eye has a conniption. Back to this. Please?
Little vent here. This is kind of like an adjustable gas block, except not for a semi-automatic weapon. It's just for, you know, how hard do you want to launch something? Because if you close the vent all the way, you're at full power. There's no gas escaping through the side. I'm not sure if you could see it on the slow-mo, but you could probably see a little bit of fire popping out of here.
I did not notice that.
Bleeding off that extra energy depending on the sensitivity of your projectile or how far you want to throw it. All right, so now let's go catch ourselves a Roomba. You are being rescued. Please do not resist. Kind of worked.
Yeah, that was more successful than I thought it would be. Its biggest problem is that he missed, actually. For the most part.
Our chain came undone, but it did kind of work. That is completely tangled around. Holy fuck. How'd that even manage to do that? There we go. Well, bad news. Much like a real festival girl, your costume came undone in the first 5 seconds.
Womp womp.
Tonight's success. Let's move on to something a little bit more lethal.
Fair, a
So
lack of
Brandon,
sights
you
is
may be
definitely a
asking,
thing.
Why did you decide to bubba a beautiful piece of history just to make a dinky little Star Wars prop? Well, aggressive hypothetical viewer, short answer is we didn't. While yes, this is a Lee Enfield, in fact it was made in 1916 and survived the Great War. Unfortunately after that it was deactivated and turned into a drill rifle with the bolt being welded shut. At some point along the way, it ended up in India, and by the time we got to it, it was absolutely just beat to shit. A bunch of the parts had already been replaced. It was covered in spray paint and a bunch of shit. Hopefully not literally, but picked it up for about $100, and by the time we got to it, all the historic value was pretty much gone. So instead of just being a beat up, non-functional gun, we were able to turn it into something that hopefully millions of people will enjoy, or at least tolerate.
So as we just mentioned before we loaded
We're not quite to 1 million yet, but he's working on it.
the net, this is a bit of a smooth bore.
Probably want a bit more in the middle. I'm assuming you mean the net, in which case, probably. Though, like I said, I feel like as short as that can is, it's probably not quite enough to get the spin out of out of that sabot. Even slugs still have a fairly long shotgun barrel, relatively speaking, in order to get themselves spinning.
Meaning that this could basically behave as a very short, sawn-off shotgun. So we got to... Meaning that this could mention before we loaded the net, this is a bit of a smooth bore. Meaning that this could basically behave as a very short, sawn-off shotgun.
That is
So we
horrifying.
got to thinking. And since the company is, you know, the AK guy, what better to use as our buckshot than a bunch of AK rivets?
It's a blunderbuss. He made a blunderbuss. Oh, crap. And I just suggested another way to make a blunderbuss. Uh-oh. Oh, boy. I don't know if I want to hit play. But I'm gonna do it.
Because sometimes than a bunch of AK rivets. Because sometimes the droids misbehave and need to be taught a lesson.
They put so many in
Best
there.
job I ever had. Jawa Blaster Buckshot. Parry this, you filthy clanker.
That's horrifying.
Oh yeah, wow. You can see, I was wondering if they impacted decently hard. You can see, obviously these are like full-size bullets, but the rivets, you can see each individual little impact mark. Not a terrible spread either.
It's time to talk about TacPack. TacPack is your ultimate tactical subscription service, where you can get things like an SOG multi-tool. It's gonna be really loud in this new office with no carpet or padding. Reptilia pistol grip, Mantis X dry fire training systems, Walker Digital Ear Pro, merch, and more. And new subscribers can use the code AKGuide to get an extra free box of tactical gear worth at least $60. That will ship inside your TacPack. So use the links down in the description and in the pinned comment, and remember, if it's your first time, use the code AKGuide. They'll go gentle. Thank you to TacPack. Back to the video.
All right, this one we're gonna shoot just to see what kind of pattern, what kind of spread we have.
This is gonna be
on these rivets
horrifying.
here with a White Claw penetration test, no less. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that recoil was on the cock. Came
Ow.
close. How the fuck did we not hit it? Look at the, you can see there's rivets embedded in the dirt around it. Yeah, a spread from up here to down here is straight up like, this is what fucking video game devs think that shotguns actually do. That was at what, fucking 10 feet?
He is
I think
correct.
that recoil, because we packed that the wad at the end a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
Recoil was a lot sharper than I was expecting, and it missed the crown jewels by like half an inch.
Ow.
Well, it might have survived the rivets, but don't worry. We have plans for you.
So something I think that's actually worth noting about this is that while this might be a pistol configuration of something that is pretty much blank fire only, this is legally registered as an SBR. Now this is because while it is perfectly legal to turn a pistol into a rifle, it is not legal, however, to turn a rifle into a pistol without it being an SBR by default. So even though there's really no stock to speak of, this bad boy is a short-barreled rifle. Even though, like said before, it is basically incapable of firing live ammunition and has no stock. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, me either. The ATF is gay, repeal the NFA. I swear, whoever's writing these firearm laws know nothing about firearms or weapons technology, which anybody can get their start
Here we go.
at sdi.edu.
So next up,
This is why I highly recommend, if you're getting an AR-15 or any other type of firearm in that family where you can go between pistol and rifle, purchase the pistol version. Because you can go from pistol, as he just said, you can go from pistol to rifle just fine.
we're going to be firing a White Claw. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, what we're using on all these different projectile loads is a form of wadding. You might recognize this from like a shotgun. Basically, when you have projectiles where you either have a lot of them or something that doesn't quite fit the size of your bore,
He's gonna
you
shoot the
kinda
White
just
Claw.
gotta use like a cup like this to at least seal off the gases so you can build pressure to be able to launch your projectile, or in this case, to kind of shim it so that it actually fits down the bore. Because if we just tried to send it with a White Claw, some of you might be having flashbacks to your bitch ex-wife.
Up to his comments are like some bizarre oracle, Delphi 5 seconds vision in the future. It's always different.
In this case, to kind of shim it so that it actually fits down the bore. Because if we just tried to send it with a White Claw, some of you might be having flashbacks to your bitch ex-wife. I'm just kidding, of course. I have never been married and have a great respect for women. Anyway, so we're gonna be using this, and now all of a sudden our White Claw fits relatively snug. There's a little movement there, but at the same time it's building that pressure and kind of cupping around the claw to be able to launch it. All right, well, ready to launch it? Sending a White Claw to hyperspace in 3, 2, 1.
Oh my gosh. That was a sequence of
Well,
pictures then.
That is what you call overpressure. This was our second prototype of the Claw Sabo, and apparently there's still a little bit too much ass on it. And we had the gas vent all the way open, but just that sudden acceleration is just too much for it to bear. He'll be missed. Also, 303 Brit is just kind of a schlong of a cartridge.
Yeah.
Also, some of you might recognize this from Fortnite, because they apparently just added this to Fortnite. How do you do, fellow Zoomers?
Fortnite.
Also, yes, the gun wall is going up. Look, I know we're in like a fucking empty hostage room. The Gallotech is there on the ground. I've got more Gallotech on the way. This is gonna be a beautiful wall, bigger than any wall we've ever had. Does your empty office have an ACR in the corner? Didn't fucking think so, shut up. For me personally, I dig the fact that whoever the prop guys were on Star Wars, I know that Star Wars has almost like got a meme about its gun culture, where all the guns that they use for props and that like are basically just World War II guns. Like you got MG34s, Lewis guns, the Stormtrooper blasters are just like Sterling submachine guns. It's all just shit that they put like some wires and stuff on to make it look sci-fi, but it works, it's a vibe. I dig that there's
Reminder that it is, in Hollywood, it is usually cheaper to use actual firearms than it is to make props.
historical context behind even little shit like the Jawa Blaster, which apparently made another cameo in the new season of Andor. I haven't seen it. Fucking sue me. Disney Star Wars doesn't really excite me these days. We'll put up some pictures, but they really did use these little cut down Lee Enfields, and they put adapters on them for grenade launching, for smoke Lee Enfields, and they put adapters on them for grenade launching.
That's really depressing. I didn't even notice that. Holy smokes. That's just mounted on a tank.
For smoke grenades and things like that, and they put them on tanks, on vehicles. They'd mount a couple of those fuckers up there and then just remotely trigger, you know, launching smoke grenades and stuff like that. It's incredibly practical. I mean, you already have a fuckload of these things hanging around. Yeah, I personally didn't even really...
Okay, that's fair. I guess that probably would save a metric ton of money. But still, that's like... That was just... They're just string activated. That's just a spring to hold the trigger, and then the string is, you know, rotted away, but that's flat out just run a string into the tank and pull it to fire your grenades. That's at least a little bit horrifying.
All those fuckers up there and then just remotely trigger, you know, launching smoke grenades and stuff like that. It's incredibly practical. I mean, you already have a fuckload of these things hanging around. Yeah, I personally didn't even really know that was a thing until a couple months ago, or maybe a couple years ago, I saw one of these adapters for sale. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then of course I go face first down the rabbit hole, and here we are. Now, if you want to know more about how we built this thing, we have another episode of The Boys in the Garage available on Pepperbox now. It follows Zach and Nick as they talk about the process of putting this thing together and what all went into rebuilding the gun enough to be a Jawa blaster and what all the testing was like on it. So if you really like the more technical, nitty-gritty side to these videos, I highly recommend you checking that out on Pepperbox. It is down below. Links are in the description and in the pinned comment. It is a subscription. However, you can just start a free trial and watch the video. Here's a secret. If you don't like the rest of the content, you just fucking cancel. So if that interests you, go ahead and check it out. Let's go.
I do need to actually check out
I'm trying to think of
Pepperbox.
some cool projectiles, like what would be neat to shoot out of this Jawa blaster. One thing came to mind, which I'm sure several other people in the comments also thought about. Let's make it a 50 cal. Well, we really can't do that. It's not really how this works, but we can do the next best thing. Have it literally shoot a 50 cal. Why would we do that, you might ask? Well, when you fire the whole bullet, you get 60% more bullet per bullet. I see no way that this could go horribly wrong. Yes, this is a real Sabo that fits a 50 BMG. I was joking, I said we should do a version that has just a little ball bearing glued to the bottom.
Please don't.
So that on impact, it causes the round to go off. That's a frankly horrible idea.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do it
that's
'cause I don't yet
horrifying.
want to die. Now, in the interest of safety, we're not gonna be using a live 50 BMG cartridge because
Thank
like I
you.
said,
Thank
to
you.
replicate it, we will be using a 50 BMG dummy round to mimic the flight pattern of a 50 cal. Looks like those tank rounds.
Yeah.
Load her up.
Good to have a few rednecks around. It worked for friction for the... There is a big difference between string firing a cannon in the 80s and string firing a cannon, grenade launcher, whatever, mounted on a modern tank, relatively speaking, because those are post-World War II tanks.
The wise words of Evel Knievel. Fuck it. Holy shit!
That was pretty effective, I think.
Got some decent heat on that one. Hit the sign with enough ass to knock it over. That Sabo disintegrated. Finding little chunks here and there. I want to say the 50 BMG spun off this way.
I got another pedal right
Other way.
here.
Oh, really? That far? Damn.
Definitely looked like it went
I
off
think
to
that
the
might be
right.
lost to time.
We ain't found shit.
Well, ladies and gents, that is the Jawa Blaster. Hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. I think this is neat because, again, at heart, I'm a bit of a nerd. I know you guys are too. If you want to see more like Hollywood hybrid stuff like that, please let me know down in the comments. And while you're down there, please check to see if you are still subscribed. YouTube is still unsubscribing people. It really hurts my fucking fifis when they do that. But to be sure that you don't miss any of our future stuff, check and make sure that you are subscribed. Big shout out to the boys in the garage for, again, helping this thing come to life so we can show it to you. That about wraps it up. As always, I will see you sexy YouTube mother lovers in the next video. Bye. Really glad there wasn't a blank still in there. I cleared it, but you never know.
Fuel is my obsession to make the perfect weapon, like Rasputin's rise to the top. Papa, quel âge je casse la, 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 casse la,
This was a bad day to wear a white shirt. Should have worn the brown pants. Well, this gun was an India bring back.
Yeah, just from a personal. Oh, cover the microphone. Don't do that. Hello, can you hear me? Probably not well.
Well, you never put a fire on anything you don't intend to destroy. Very true. You know, if I use the right keyboard, that would really help with sending this out. And I have checked multiple times. I am still at the moment subscribed to him. Yay. On both my primary and Zyfax accounts. I'm reacting to his content. He gets both the subscriptions. So that's cool. It's definitely given some bad ideas. I actually did not know about the mounting of Lee Enfield for grenade launchers. I knew about a bunch of the different grenade launcher options. I guess I just never knew about these cut down ones being stuck on the vehicles to use as launchers. And again, I am unsure how I feel about that level of redneck engineering as an official means of equipping tanks and armored vehicles with grenade launchers. That sketches me out a little bit. I just realized one of the recommended videos is Firearm Expert reacts to John Wick Chapter 2 guns. I don't know if I want to wait a week to watch that. We'll save it for after the mid-stream break. We're going to play some games, then we'll watch it, and then we'll play more games. Split the difference. Because I'm not waiting a week to watch that. So we're going to fire up Zelda. I'm going to get some more caffeine. And then we're going to do that. If I can find where it wandered off to. There we go. And you can post that react since you probably won't explain how to commit felony. Wait, what? You know what? I'm not sure I want to know. Gotcha. Give me a second. Give me a second, I'm checking something. It's questionable because it would probably be a small caliber launcher, but much Googling would have to be done to be safe. Once you cross Caster Wilds, the element should be easy to find. If you forgot where to go, just take a look at the map. No, you go away. Oh, right, I did just get the boots. How are we on sound? Wait, 5 minutes for... Oh, yep. And I am going in the wrong direction. I keep thinking that that is the map. Right, I'm going down. Right, pay attention to thought bubbling, thank you, I think. Scumbag. There we go. I'm so glad that you can start up in the middle of it. Quiet, you. I did not push forward. True. Remix is good. That was not worth it. I think the gold ones are usually pretty good. I hope so. Now, that is one nasty looking statue. That eye has such an evil glower to it. Right. I think this is where we're gonna need the bow. ignoring that they could have just handed you a heart piece. This is that game style this time around. Eh. Yep, this is where we're gonna get the bow. Aha! Okay, I can not use the boots. Since when is not having a bow a good excuse for not taking money to sell arrows? Boot limitation can around 7 lane codes, but not. Yeah, that was a given. Well, it was worth trying. Okay. We're gonna be hearing that for a while. I got no idea how I'm supposed to get over there while Minish. Degraded bow, not even worthy of being a dungeon. That's true! What the heck? It's the bow! It should be on the it should be in a dungeon chest. Thank you for the heart. Probably be getting swim fins at some point. Probably swim across while mini. But do swim fins work on the swamp sludge? Check that out in a sec. Check that out now. Thank you. Though my body may perish, I am still the true master swordsman of Hyrule. Swiftblade the First, spirit of the swordsman. You train with me? I missed that. Okay. As soon as you are not yet ready to train. Okay. Okay, we got a way to go. Thank you. Okay, this is all the way at the beginning. I don't think I can mark stuff on my map. No, you go away. Stop that. No, though I can zoom in on the map, which certainly helps. I wish I knew about that earlier. Can I just put my own Kinstone pieces together? Is that an option? Am I going over there? Is that my goal? Or am I going up there? Maybe that's my goal. Don't have the boots! Please? We're missing one. Please? The boots don't work while I'm minished, so I don't know what it's trying to get me to do with that. Ah, I need to go back and float over. That's what I need to do. I'm pretty sure that's what I need to do. Nope, there are rocks in the way. You go away. Wait. Why can't... Okay, I've already been there. Never mind. I'm mixed up on where I'm... Over there. Darn it. Right, because this is where I first tried to... Oh my... You know what the... Stop that. You know what the worst part is? If I was smart, I would do the stuff intentionally in order to farm engagement. But I don't. It just happens. Ah, one of you. Always with the changing mechanics. Quiet, you. These soldier statues here were built to keep by the Minish ages ago to help humans. It's kind of a secret, but there's a switch inside that turns them on or off. That's great, but how do I make him move? I ran up to him as a Minish. I didn't move. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh! I'm not sure how I feel about that. Why did it go to the side? Ah. All that just to get to the temple. Nope. I think the rooms were hidden within this cliff the whole time. Watch your steps, Eye. There could be traps in here. You mean like haunted floor tiles? Yep, haunted floor tiles. No! Wait, I might have an idea. My idea probably isn't gonna work. Nope. Thank you. Aha! Ooh! Dark Souls is tight, but yeah. Dealt enough with that crap before. Look at all this conveniently placed money. That was a lot of work for a key. Yeah, the lack of fall damage was really nice. Save implemented. Alright, chat, left or right? While I quickly check this. Artist contacting me. Alright, left. Sorry, just give me a sec. Briefly wondering if you're just sending me into a trap. Oh my... Great, one of you. No one likes you. Go away. Alright, what'd I miss? I'm sure I missed something. Because I don't have another key. Oh, wait a minute. Ah, there we go. Good grief. The moments! You are now a dwarf! There we go. No! I am thinking we should go back and spend some of this money on stuff before we, you know, find more money, basically. And we have at least opened up all the shortcuts. Oh yeah, I am absolutely thrilled that they allow pulling instead of just pushing. Oh my gosh, I would have been so screwed otherwise. Yay, open shortcuts! Ah! Oh. 600. I can carry 5. Also 600. I can carry 5. There is a jar there that isn't normally there. And no one in the bar notices the kid shrink to nothing, apparently. Are you... Sharp. Did you see how far we have to go? We're not doing that tonight. At least this is healing me. Right, I forgot the prizes sucked. I don't know what else I could spend my money on at the moment. So that might be it, because I need to go feed the dog for that. And we're at the midway point. So I think I'm gonna go I'm gonna save. That's very important. We're gonna take a short break. We'll come back. We're gonna watch John Wick related things. Jonathan Ferguson, John Wick, that's a good combination. Followed by Chrono Trigger for the rest of tonight. So I will be back shortly. Hello? Sorry. Rabbit hold. Apparently, YouTube is putting more ads in YouTube Premium. Not adding ads to YouTube Premium, putting more ads in YouTube Premium. In spite the false advertising that they say ad blockers are against terms of service. But you don't have to watch ads if you join YouTube Premium. As it turns out, you do still have to watch ads with YouTube Premium. So, why would you? If they've already got ads in YouTube Premium and are putting more ads in YouTube Premium, why would you use YouTube Premium? I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not sponsored by Brave, the Brave browser. I really, really wish I was, because man, do I always bang the drum for them. The Brave browser is one of, if not the best way to knock out YouTube ads. They have a whole department dedicated to circumventing ads. And the reason that Google can't go after them is because the FBI actually says you should use ad blockers when browsing the web. So YouTube can't go after the browser that built in ad blocking. It's not an extension, it's part of the browser itself. Because they'll go there, and then Brave's lawyers will say, well, hold on a second. Then why does the federal government recommend ad blockers as a key part of web safety? And yet you're trying to force people not to use them. So that's the reason why Brave has never been attacked directly by Google. Because FBI has been saying that for 7 years now or something. So, highly recommend using Brave, keeping it updated. If you want to support creators, turn on Brave ads, which are vetted, which don't interrupt videos, they don't take up space on web pages, they appear in your notifications, and they appear on your new page whenever you open a new tab. And that will, you set that up, set it to auto support creators. It will pay creators typically at a higher CPM than YouTube. I haven't been paid by YouTube yet. I get about $1.50 a month from Brave. So it's not a lot of money, but it is more than Google's paying me. So yeah, that is what I would highly recommend. You can get it for your phones. If you use it on your phone, it gives you the functions of YouTube Premium where you can minimize the window, lock the phone, and keep listening to what you're listening to. You can pop out the video window if you want to watch it while doing something else. Brave is the solution there. And before anyone starts talking about boo-hoo, Google, money, getting paid, yada yada, I will remind you that Google is leaving money on the table by having all of that nonsense with having requirements for monetization. That is all these accounts that could be monetized even at just a small rate, where us little creators, it would mean the world to get just a little bit of money. And then Google would have now cast this massive net. Google would have now cast an absolutely massive net for them to advertise on. and they wouldn't have to be so aggressive on the people that are monetized to where they just ruin the platform. Look at Beam, which is now announcing monetization for everyone. Even though I still haven't actually earned enough to actually get paid there. The point is, that means they're still running ads on everyone's platform, on everyone's channel, regardless of how tiny they are. Tiny people, as long as they're watched, will eventually get paid. And in the meantime, Beam has a full platform net. I just place your head with a lion head, see if that gets them on board. I will, because, yeah, that may be an option. But yeah, so that's just, YouTube's plan is not to fix anything. It is to make things worse and assume people will just live with it. Reminder, the Nintendo Switch 2 was hacked in under 4 hours. These companies don't understand they're not going to win this. I am not going to be surprised if we see the mighty YouTube actually collapse because of Google's incompetency. Anyways, we are going. I am not waiting till this Friday or whatever. Firearms Expert reacts to John Wick Chapter 2 Guns. Which, if you're not familiar with John Wick, why aren't you familiar with John Wick? Those movies are awesome. And of course, Jonathan Ferguson, keeper of firearms and technology at the Royal Armories, I think I got it right this time for once, is also awesome. It's firearms and artillery, not technologies. Why do I keep thinking it's technologies? It's artillery. Firearms and artillery at the armory. God. Anyways.
This is Jonathan Ferguson, the keeper of firearms and artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett. Today we're returning to the Continental and booking a tasting with our very own
there's a first one?
sommelier as we check out the weapons of John Wick 2.
I love the cut to the wide shot. I can only imagine how many takes.
We should do these in order. There's the first one. We should do these in order. We're doing the first one because I missed it. There was a first one. Also, just as a heads up, after listening to Tectone talk about reaction content earlier today, I am feeling a little less ambivalent about doing reaction content. He made some really good points and pointed out some really good reasoning behind how and what you want to do with reaction content. I'm glad I'm already trying to do some of it, like actually add and say things. So just throwing that out there. So you're probably going to start seeing maybe more of these, one than other. We'll see. Anyways, first part.
This is Jonathan Ferguson, the keeper of firearms and artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and today we've booked a room at the Continental as we're checking out the weapons from the original John Wick.
Oh, there's that flick. I mean, needless to say, the weapons handling in this is superb. I still prefer it over the later movies where he's clearly even more skilled. This just, for me, is a perfect blend of what would the ultimate mob enforcer / hitman be like.
While also
There's a couple things. One, he went and learned and trained all of this. Keanu Reeves went and learned and trained all of this. He can actually do the gun stuff that we're seeing here. Two, the John Wick flick is actually the John Wick flick. My understanding from multiple sources, which if they're wrong, they're wrong. But I've seen multiple sources that have all said that the flick reload is the way that that these movies have iconified is actually the invention of Keanu Reeves. He came up with that specific style of speed reloading himself, is what I have seen in multiple sources. Keanu Reeves is awesome. He is, as is famously known now, breathtaking.
Also soothing some of the psychic damage caused by our recent April Fool's video.
What?
If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on next week's episode. But without further ado, I'll throw it over to Jonathan.
I could cleanse the palate with some proper John Wick. Got the t-shirt on as well. This chest. So I only recently learned. I was chatting with the guy from Hollywood Guns on YouTube, because he was doing the HKP P30L John Wick custom model, which are two of which are in this case. I don't know if they ever plan to have him go akimbo, because there are two of both pistols. I think that's just a backup thing. I can't ever see, as crazy as John Wick gets later, I can't ever see them intending to do the old Desperado thing. But we have two of those, and we have two Glock 26s, which we'll come back to. In terms of in-universe, obviously the idea is he's a retired hitman, and he has retired, so he's concreted it into the floor, so he isn't tempted to go doing more killings. Except he's back, as we know. Finger on the trigger there as he picks the weapon up. I remember noticing that the first time, thinking that doesn't look as professional as Keanu clearly is. Then again, when you're this good, maybe we can make an exception. Also, he is about to go and kill people, so there is that.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a strong argument to be made that what he just said, he is that good, and he knows that for all he knows, he could be spinning, doing a 180 right into his first shot.
Now, I remember thinking, at first, what's that? That's an unusual looking pistol. Very movie-like with that extended front. And that is a custom compensator that was designed and made for the film. And like a lot of John Wick fans, I think it's a bit of a shame that we never came back to this pistol. It sort of makes sense story-wise as to why he no longer has it. I mean, needless to say, the weapons handling in this is superb. I still prefer it over the later movies, where he's clearly even more skilled and more practiced. This just, for me, is a perfect blend of, what would the ultimate mob enforcer / hitman be like? And it's just, he could just as easily be the Punisher, that level of hyper real. He does martial arts, close-up work. It's like the stuff we saw.
It's called Gun Fu.
From Equilibrium and the Matrix and stuff, turned up to 11, and then they turn it up to 2011. That wasn't deliberate in the sequels. But this is still my favorite, will always be my favorite. And I think the P30L with the compensator is somehow perfect for the film. It's questionable as to whether that's the ideal choice for someone like this. It's longer, a bit harder to conceal. The HKP30, generically, great choice. They went for the full size, and then they made it double full size with the, I believe, from remembering Hollywood Guns video on this correctly, a faux compensator originally. Don't think we ever see flash out the ports on the top. So I guess in universe, the idea is he wants the full length barrel and slide, because he's not doing red dots at this point. So he wants that for the maximum sight radius, to use his exceptional abilities to the maximum. Fine. And then he's extending I guess primarily what matters the most about the compensator in theory is he's keeping his muzzle flip to a minimum, so he doesn't outpace the gun with his grip, trigger control, whatever else. If you are this almost superhero level of skilled when it comes to pistol craft, then maybe a compensator makes sense. Not the last time we see a comp on a gun in John Wick.
Yeah, he made the point I was going to make.
Transition to the Glock 26. I think in 2015 when I saw this, I was perfectly happy with that. An obvious choice perhaps, but a reasonable one. Nice and compact.
I reached for mine.
A little bit thick maybe, but a good backup option. If you had any reliability concerns over the HK, which I don't think in the scheme of things there are, then something as reliable as a Glock makes a good backup. It sort of also indicates he isn't about brand. He's not being sponsored. He chooses what he thinks is best. So he's got 2 different pistols from 2 different manufacturers. Given the amount of shooting he does, having 2 pistols on you does make sense. I don't think he's packing all 4 in this scene. It would have been a bit too Matrix, I guess, if he was New York reloading every 5 seconds. And I've been wittering here, but one of the few John Wick firearms that we do have in the collection, because it is really very fashion conscious, cutting edge, even from 10 years ago, to the point where we don't have most of it. We do have several of the Glock 26.
And a point I'd like to make about it as a backup gun is the fact that Glocks, as a rule, by the way, from like 2 months ago now, you can see when not loaded, loaded but not primed, the striker isn't primed, the trigger is all the way back. A Glock as a backup weapon for any number of reasons is actually a great idea. One, they're Glocks, which means their parts are very heavily interchangeable unless you've got someone running something super custom or super just generally non-standard. A Glock and 9 is like Glock and 9 is the most popular combination you're going to find regardless of what. 26s and 9. So the parts everywhere, easy to maintain. 90% of the gun is just this slide here. There's barely any actual gun in the lower receiver at all. And a Glock 26 is going to use, I think there might be one specialist 9mm type magazine, but otherwise it's going to use literally every other 9mm magazine that Glock makes, because they're all the same dimensions. It's just a matter of length. So it's also going to give you the widest ability to use magazines, especially since it been a bit of a trend for other guns to just use Glock magazines. You know, there's a whole meme about, well, does it take Glock mags? So that plus accessories and customizability. Regardless of what you're running as your primary, G26 is probably going to be an ideal, highly recommended type secondary just for raw utility, even if you hate the way the thing looks, which I am actually in the category of. I think these are ugly bricks.
Of the Glock 26. And I think his is a Gen 3. I've not checked. Big problem.
I say as I reach for my Glock 26.
And you can see it in the clip here, is he hasn't got the extended magazine base plate, which we do have, but I forgot to pick up, that gives you somewhere to put your pinky. A lot of leverage comes from the pinky finger, and that you're missing with this. But unlike the tiny Browning that we covered on our channel the other week, this at least gives you 2 fingers and a thumb, which is enough grip to control this thing. I think for me, the Glock 26 in film, I immediately think of John Wick, and I think...
I'm going to comment on the pinky thing. I don't use it either. The Glock 26, it's 9mm. It's relatively light, but it's not like ridiculously light for 9mm. And, as he mentioned, it is fairly chunky. It is fairly wide. And so that wider palm grip can do a whole lot. Well, not can, often does do a whole lot to help with any kind of recoil mitigation in dealing with. So I'm inclined to think that he's probably dropping the pinky grip, because slight increase to concealability. And I know that for me personally, if I'm going to add that little extra space to the bottom of the magazine, I'm going to want a +2 or a +3 spacer to just give me more rounds. Because the difference between that and your typical, there's a couple really slim, but your typical pinky extension is so minimal that you might as well just go for the extra ammo on top of the extra space if you're using it. Though I keep a basic 10 in my standard magazine. In my carry mag, I mean. Spares are bigger.
I think for me, the Glock 26 in film, I immediately think of John Wick and I think of Black Widow, the Marvel movies, who has 2 of these on her hip. That sort of cold, intent brutality, the Mozambique drill there to ensure that guy is definitely not going to be a problem. That draw is awesome. He's practiced that a hell of a lot. That's a good view of this compensator. So I think that for a lot of us who love this film, this is an iconic setup, but it is not fully integrated into the design, if that makes sense. Looking at this again more recently, I never realized that there's Picatinny rail on the bottom of the compensator. It doesn't line up. This profile view shows you very clearly that the height of the compensator is less than the combined height of the slide and the dust cover on the pistol, so they're at different heights. Not necessarily a problem. Bigger problem is hanging stuff off a compensator, which he doesn't do anyway. This is really for looks. It has become part of the look of modern tactical firearms, whether or not you're using it for anything. And John doesn't. And you can just about make out the fake ports on top of the compensator. There's something about the proportions here that is a wider trope of cinema at this point. Think Leon, the professional, with his Beretta with the compensator on the end, the Tomb Raider USPs, the extended Berettas in Equilibrium and Underworld. And basically any time a full-length Desert Eagle shows up, they've all got a similar kind of exaggerated barrel and slide and potentially compensator on the end as well. It's something to do with presence on camera. The old Dirty Harry problem. So they found in Dirty Harry that if they filmed from the front, the revolver did not look, this is not a revolver clearly, nor it's about a fraction of the size of a Model 29. It looked too short. You get a foreshortening effect, especially on a film camera, and so for some shots they would swap out Dirty Harry's, Clint Eastwood's obviously, Model 29 for a longer barrel version, even than his normal 6-inch, I think it was, which is excessively long for a 1970s detective. Same applies here, but rather than change the length of the weapon, which you can't really do, and these days people would notice, they just go for something that is excessively long for what he's trying to do here. In retrospect, maybe they should have gone for some sort of compact but tall custom suppressor. I suspect there are a number of people who watched this who thought maybe that's what that was supposed to be. It's not, it's a compensator to keep the muzzle down. But yeah, what would make more sense for a Hitman is taking a bit of that sound signature off and flash. Because if anything, this is going to flash up worse and mean that some return fire might be a bit more accurate to wherever you happen to be as you're moving through. In this case, a dark nightclub.
He is correct. Compensators are they split the flash and make it bigger. There is an argument to be made for the extra long compensator depending on how it's designed. This being John Wick, I can see it being intentionally done this way, where it doesn't just function as a compensator, but it also functions in part as a barrel extender. Now, you're going to get a lot of bleed off because of those upper ports, the primary point of the compensator, but you have the potential, if you make it right, you got to make it a very specific way. Most compensators aren't going to do this. Most compensators aren't that long. But if you can continue the rifling from the barrel through the compensator in order to get some extra accuracy out of it. So there is some argument to be made besides just the keeping the gun flat for why you would have an extra long compensator, which is functionally doubling your barrel length or your rifling length.
I think we can see from the flash there that we're just getting the typical somewhat exaggerated Hollywood muzzle flash, nothing out the top. And a lot of the muzzle flash in this, as Corridor have dealt with as well, is CGI'd because up to a certain distance, you can't use forward venting blank firing conversions. So they didn't use airsoft. There's a common misconception that they used airsoft. They might have used it for blocking shots or for stunt or something, but these close-up shots, these incredible, like the muzzle strikes, the contact shots, love that reload so much. It's just so good. Anyway, that is all done with, I believe they were UTM, which is a brand name, but blocked muzzle blank firing conversions for real pistols is what they're using here. So they are ejecting blanks cases, sorry, but they have to CGI the muzzle flash. I'm fine with the muzzle flash that they did in this.
I think there are a few places where, I mean, I didn't notice when I actually originally watched the film, only just noticing it now, where you see that effect when they're having to choreograph such close quarters fighting, because the slide doesn't move either.
Ah, interesting. Where did you see that?
When he comes through the door, he blocks a guy with his left hand and shoots him in the stomach with his right. So
It's
you get
not
a real
moving.
Close look at the weapon there. In other scenes, the slide is moving, and you can see cases being ejected.
Yeah, so that's the retention position. Shoot it. Well, he shoots him in the gut. I'm sure you're right that the slide isn't moving. If they're actually firing you,
Just for the record, if I can, please,
shoot it.
if you're using a proper ported shoot. If you're using a proper ported compensator, instead of just this big flash here, first of all, you shouldn't be having quite as big of a flash here. Second of all, you should have jets coming out either straight up or in a V shape from the top. I believe with the way his is designed, it would be the V shape.
He shoots him in the gut. I'm sure you're right that the slide isn't moving. If they're actually firing UTM, it should. So the whole point of that is the barrel is blocked and all the back pressure in a reduced power blank drives the slide and it cycles normally. That's how it should work. So that either means that they didn't use it for that, or they had to go with a take where he was already out of ammo or something. Good spot, don't know quite what's going on there. It ought to always cycle. And even if it was airsoft, it should still cycle. But it isn't. I've just looked at it again.
You said you'd probably be using a rubber gun if you're hitting someone with it, but he reloads it. Couldn't you just CGI the magazine being flicked out?
You could, but then you see him I don't know. I think I've just watched it again, and there is a cut. Okay, my revised opinion on this. This is live off the cuff, but recorded. It does look like a solid lump of rubber there to me. Bearing in mind I'm on a small screen, not a great setup, but so at least in that case, I suspect they went with rubber because at one point there was a strike, and they've cut that strike. That would be my guess. So that's why that doesn't cycle. Then again, I'm not convinced that it cycles in the other shots in that scene either. So there might be something else going on there.
John Wick is one of mine and Jonathan's favourite movies, so if you want to see us nerd out even harder over this film, you can check out the extended edition of this episode over on our Patreon. You can catch all of the main episodes right here on YouTube, but if you head to our Patreon, you can get access to longer, more in-depth, extended editions of these episodes, plus early access to next week's episode where we cover the whip-crackingly good weapons of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Each patron directly helps support the work we're doing here at EXP, but whether you join our Patreon, subscribe to us here on YouTube, I want to say thank you for supporting us, for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, all of that good stuff, and let's get back to the video.
So there we go. Got Browning high power there. We have a ton of those. It's fairly generic, but it's of the character's era. He is, if not retired, then later in his hitmanning career, and he's got arguably, I mean, I wouldn't call it an obsolete pistol, but it's an older design for sure. You've only got 13 rounds in the magazine. It's heavy. It would make a lot more sense to have something like a Glock. Now, of all of the kind of Hollywood tropey cleaning my gun because I'm a badass and I need to illustrate that by cleaning my gun scenes that I've ever seen, this is probably the best. Does he really need to give his pistol another clean before he goes out and maybe uses it? No, not really. I'm sure it was already good to go. But people do have little rituals, and he doesn't do anything dumb with it. You know, he isn't there with a toothbrush scrubbing the slide or something. A lot of times an actor is told to do something and not given the full reason why, or you can...
I am going to make a comment on the cleaning. And this is coming from not an assassin that I know of, but from a soldier who was an up there type. You know, he wasn't like super special forces or anything, but he was one of the much better designated marksman, top of his class type, well, on the range at least, types that, you know, while everyone else is laying down covering fire, he's the guy actually trying to pick off enemy soldiers types. Is the need to what you're not giving the gun a full clean when you're doing stuff like this. You are both reminding and refamiliarizing yourself with the gun you're using. It is a double check to make sure everything's in its place. And every once in a while, you'll find something that you missed that's like, oh, that part's wearing out. That part needs to be replaced. Whatever. It is as much a function check as it is a cleaning. So, now, yeah, stuff with like the toothbrush and a lot of what Hollywood does is nonsense. But in terms of just, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do shooting things, there is some logic to giving a rough, quick clean just to make sure everything's working right. Maybe it's been a while and you want to get some extra lubricant and oil in the gun so that it's running as smooth as it possibly can. Yeah, you know, there is some logic to being like, yeah, I cleaned it when I put it away, but I'm just going to give it a quick once over before I go out and put my life into the, you know, risk my life using this thing. Think about it from that perspective. If you're going out into a combat scenario, be it warfare or assassination, you are literally putting your life into the trust of these firearms. It doesn't hurt to make sure that it's gonna work exactly as you think it should.
Doesn't do anything dumb with it. You know, he isn't there with a toothbrush scrubbing the slide or something. A lot of times an actor is told to do something and not given the full reason why, or you can always tell if they've been through a boot camp at TTI or anywhere else. You can tell because they've got a casual familiarity with firearms that you only get with time and hands-on. And I do get that from this.
You touched on the exact reason why I wanted to include this gun, because the first John Wick film especially does weapon casting very, very well. And that's something that you've brought up in the past. So, like you said, we've got the high power here, but then a little later...
Two high powers.
Two high powers. when one isn't quite powerful enough. Later, Miss Perkins is using a suppressed Walther P99, and Harry has a snub-nosed Colt Python. And you see these older characters and younger characters using older weapons and, you know, contemporarily younger, newer weapons. It wasn't something that I really appreciated until I came back to the films for this, that yeah, they've done a tremendous job at casting the weapon to the character.
Those Macs are like, but
tell
why?
There's no care or thought given, or the armourer just hasn't been properly involved in the process and they give what they anticipate will be a good choice and it doesn't really work. Don't think I have any major thoughts about this. I think they all make perfect sense or are justifiable, and you know, it's what we see in reality. You know, I always loved in Brooklyn Nine-Nine that I think even beyond what would have been realistic, actually, Captain Holt keeps his old 38 snub nose on his hip, even though his detectives have all got Glocks or whatever. I suspect someone at the NYPD sort of said, oh yeah, Captain kept his for longer than he should have or whatever.
I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this.
I have heard so many stories of modern police officers keeping old service weapons. This doesn't shock me at all. I just saw a thing relatively recently. It was still like a month or two ago, but it was a thing with a police officer retiring with a 38 special. That's a revolver. Well, as just mentioned, you know, it's a guy, his last day on the force, he's retiring, still has that 38 special from like 40 years ago.
But now is not the time to go all John Wick.
Who's that? A friend of yours?
I wish.
You do still sometimes see in maybe in more rural police departments in the US, you will still see the old big iron on the hip. What he's done with the second high power, I'm not sure, because again, we don't see him shooting two guns while jumping through the air. And we have the rifle there, so that's a takedown version of this. So we do have roughly the right Ruger Model 77 here. It's not that right because, well, clearly there's a scope missing, which I'll explain in a moment. And he has it's takedown, so quick detach, split it in half for compact carry, perfect for a.
I do not consider screw-on quick detach. There are models that just have big lugs that are like in 45 degrees or 90 degrees, done. I would not consider quick detach. Though it is takedown. It is still takedown, absolutely. Stuff that comes apart like that is takedown. No complaint there.
An assassination type setup. So this doesn't have that. And this is also a fairly nice wooden stock, whereas Willem Dafoe's character has got a less flashy polymer stock. But this is the barreled action at least. And actually, as I often do with a bit of stealth education on the collection here, this is an ex-British police rifle. I don't have any details right now on that. I'm hopefully going to go away and capture that information while the people that had it are very much still alive. That's why there's no scope. So often when police very kindly donate their former weapons to us, they are obliged to remove accessories if they're going to be of use on the next system. So an expensive quality bit of glass that would have been in these rings has been taken off and put on whatever they bought next. Is this the preferred sniper rifle of a Hitman? I don't know. It's as valid as anything else, and it's more good weapon casting, I think. This is the sort of thing that hints at a personal preference for the brand or the model in particular. But it's not just a hunting rifle, I don't think. He's gone for something that has a little tactical edge to it with the polymer stock. Now, Willem Dafoe in this film is closer to...
To be takedown, it just has to be detachable. My only point was I don't know if screw-on is considered quick.
The age John Wick was supposed to be in the script. It was much more of a nobody vibe in the original script. Keanu was a good 10 years or more younger and more fit and able to do the gun fu stuff that we love so much. So I think it was the right choice. Marcus is our sort of stand-in for the original John Wick, if you like, in a way.
So that shot there, where he's perched over the railing, this is something that Chris pointed out to me, actually.
It's flipped. They flipped the shot round.
Oh,
It
did they?
suddenly turned into a left.
Oh, they did!
Which obviously it wasn't before.
Good catch. I did notice. Oh yes, he's got a case of the Ian McCollums going on. How did I never notice that?
I suspect that is just to make the geography of the shots make a bit more sense. They're quick enough shots that they hope no one would notice.
But we noticed. Well, you noticed.
You noticed. This is, although I haven't seen this for about a good 5 years, I would say. So I'm going to try and go easy on myself. But I have seen this at least half a dozen times, and I've never noticed that. And I'm normally, as you know, all over that kind of thing. I'm going to put that down to this being such an engaging scene and such a quick shot, as you say, that you don't notice. But yeah, good catch. Good bolt catch. No, that's atrocious.
Oh.
I'm editing this one. That's staying in.
Please. Oh no. I need to be more careful.
Hey, John.
Good old P99. Do like it. Only fired it once.
Pet peeve thing. Note that it still bangs when she fires it. You get that zip of like, oh, it's silenced, but it still makes a crack as she fires it. That is how most silenced weapons are actually going to sound. You're using supersonic ammo, so you're still getting the crack of the supersonic round going through the air. The only thing the can is doing is eliminating the very loud immediate report in front of you. But it's still not hearing safe for most weapons. Where, you don't wear hearing protection, you're still getting tinnitus from firing that, even with a can on. The big thing it does is it just, like I said, it eliminates that immediate crack on your position. It takes out most, if not all, of the flash. And it just, I guess the best way to put it is it makes that loud bang more pleasant, or I guess less harsh. Not more pleasant, but less harsh, I guess is the best way to put it. Now, if you're using actual subsonic ammo, which she is not, Then you're going to get something that's fairly quiet, but even then you can usually hear something out of most guns. There's only a very few, like the Welrod and the Maxim 9, that are like properly, movie silent. But generally speaking, the point of the can isn't perfect silence. The point of the can, particularly in something like indoor shooting, is to just make it less miserable in your face.
Once, I think. It's a little static. Good old P99. Do like it. Only fired it once, I think. It's a little static there. Move around very much. Equally hard to simulate recoil. You see actors do it sometimes. It doesn't, maybe with the exception of Dirty Harry, doesn't usually work that well. And if you do it with a semi-automatic or automatic weapon, it can jam. So they typically don't do it. We always think of John Wick 2 with the crazy pew pew sound, silencers and no one noticing. But I don't think the sound is any worse than the sound in the first movie, which is very old school pew pew. So John has taken the P99. I think it's a first generation P99. It went through a few changes and then it morphed into the PPQ, and we have other pistols since. But the P99 for me is a classic for that very organic ergonomic grip that it had, which it got arguably better over time. But depending on your hands, if it fits, it's great. It's like a Olympic target pistol. And of course, the P99 is like iconic for Bond fans.
Thank you.
Of course, it's a movie, so hitting someone with the butt of a polymer frame pistol in the top of the head knocks them out harmlessly.
Most of the time, if you do that, you're threatening just cracking the skull. That has a very good chance of just being plain lethal. Swimming Link, been a while. Hi, welcome.
Kiltech, KSG, 12. I would normally have maybe criticised this as a bit implausible, but as well as the heightened reality of the gang underworld high table stuff that John's involved with, well, they're all in theory a bit of a retcon, I suspect, but they're all involved in the same world. So there are some slightly esoteric choices. Would you want that as a tactical shotgun in this world? Discuss.
Prio.
So this is the Desert Tech, is it not? Yeah, so a bolt-action bullpup precision rifle. I think it's a good choice. It's compact by default. It's got a lot of power behind it. He doesn't need rapid fire because he's that good, even though he's engaging at distances where a semi-auto would be fine. And yet more variety. We've got a lot of different makes and types of firearm in this movie.
Miss Perkins, your membership to the Continental has been by thine own hand revoked.
I remember this, even from the first, this scene made me raise an eyebrow. I haven't ever tried to plot it out in top down, but it struck me as really dangerous to all be shooting in a circle at somebody standing in the middle of a circle. That doesn't seem sensible. Even if you're all slightly offset so that your firing lines don't, you haven't got a direct crossfire. Bullets can do slightly weird things sometimes, and if it deflects off at a slight angle, and
it can hit a bone.
It looks really cool, and you get that almost sort of priesthood vibe of these. It's one of the early hints that there's some kind of almost cultiness going on with this whole high table setup. But I think at this stage, most of that wasn't really thought of.
On the hitting a bone thing, the bullet, even if the bullet doesn't deflect and turn to hit someone that's standing out of the way, just the shattering fragments at that range, because you got a lot of energy coming out of those 9mm going through, they could turn the bone into shrapnel. So yeah, I never thought about it. I only ever thought about it from the perspective I'll just stand offset. But thank you for the raid, Swimming Link. I was wondering why you were quiet over there when you first popped in. Welcome. You were plotting. It's been a while. Hi. anyways, yeah, it is. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, you at that range you could be using the bones as improvised shotgun, buckshot, shrapnel, whatever, which is horrific to think about. So yeah, I guess there's a good reason why firing squads stand in lines, not circles.
You realize I can't leave until you put the grenades back, right?
Oh, but you let John Wicks have grenades.
It's Wick. Singular.
Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you
I did not realize you were
hit the
right at the
subscribe
end.
button, like the video, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I swear Jonathan is secretly one of the Continental's gun sommeliers. Maybe that's something we'll
Speaking
dive into
of-
more in a future episode. As always, a huge shout out to all of our supporters over on our Patreon for helping make this project and all of these episodes happen. Links on how you can support the Royal Armories will be in the description below, as will links to all of our social media pages and of course our Patreon. But once more, just wanted to say thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.
Yeah. Speaking of, I know that we've got like 50 minutes left on the stream. I really want to do the John Wick 2 video too. Yep, you rest well, and thank you for the raid. Very appreciated. Yeah, because of that I mean, it's very likely that I can't see why he wouldn't talk about the gun shop scene, which is awesome. I know we're really running down time, but I still really want to actually get that one as well. And now I'm seeing Army Fire. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I want to burn down the rest of the stream on reactions, but You know, I turned on the word censor on Social Stream Ninja in order to see how it worked for this weekend. I almost think it's censoring the words makes it worse. I almost think the word censor makes it worse. Seeing all the asterisks on the line. But yeah, we've got Army Firearms Specialist. We've got good videos. All right, well, we're doing the EXP one at the very least. Yeah, I think we're turning to a React stream. I am admittedly on the tired side. We're just going to do a lot of these. It's more stuff for me to have going while I'm away, which I will be here next weekend. I think it's the weekend after that I'm going to have to take off for a little bit.
This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett. Today, we're returning to the Continental and booking a tasting with our very own firearms sommelier as we check out the weapons of John Wick 2.
I love the cut to the wide shot. I can only imagine how many takes all this took to nail.
I love that this scene's so good. We've just both gone really quiet and I'm just simply watching it.
It's not good video, is it?
If you want a longer, deeper, extended edition of this episode, then be sure to check out our Patreon. We'll also have our first Warhammer episode with historical expert Toby Capwell hitting the Patreon very soon. But without further ado, I will throw it over to Jonathan.
The sequel, which I pretty much love just as much as the first one, although the slightly grittier vibe of the first one I think still is my preference. So there's that chest that they had to painstakingly recreate. And the rifles underneath, which I don't think we saw in the first film. I think they've got all the details of the chest correct. I haven't done a side by side.
There's the shotgun.
So
at least.
what do we have in there? That looks like a KSG. That will be the Kohari Arms carbine or rifle he has in one. So in theory, he retrieved that and used it and has put it back. And there's a sort of Mark 18 with a suppressor or something of that nature. I've never actually looked at this in detail. Surprising, really. Yeah. So two rifles or carbines, 12 gauge shotgun, and 4 pistols isn't bad going for one wooden chest. So I don't know if any eagle-eyed IMFDB users have identified what that Mark 18 looking thing is on the top there. I haven't. And I'm going to have a look after this now. I might appear in the comments of this one.
But it says it's the box contains at least one Kohari Arms CA415. So maybe he's got a pair.
Oh, okay. All right. So they're hedging their bets. Well, I am saying that is something else. But maybe that company makes a longer barreled version of the same thing with a conventional stock. But I would guess that's something else. I'm also going to guess that it's at an angle and level of light resolution, effectively, that we probably can't say what it is. Someone will probably prove me wrong. If you do, go and edit IMFDB.
Well, I mean, modern firearms are so customizable. Who knows what the base is?
Good afternoon, Mr. Wick.
Here we go.
Ah, wonderful scene. I really wanted him to make a comeback. Love Peter Serafinowicz, and the character was such a good idea. So yeah, interestingly, he does have the option here to go back to the HKP-30, albeit that's a conventional one on the shelf. There's loads of other stuff going on here as well. So we've got Glock 17s and 34s, conventional Gen 4s by the look of it. Oh, that's a 17L
Beretta.
actually on the top right.
Full auto version.
I think from memory, someone's already ID'd all these on IMFDB, so I won't duplicate their work. And then we've got the two he ends up with, of course, and we're starting with a TTI'd out Glock 26. So really just an upgrade on what he had before for his backup piece. I used the word boutique. You could use Gucci as well. They're leaning into it right from the off with these fancier, less realistic, let's be honest, choices by having a literal gun sommelier. so a guy that would normally be presenting you with different wine options, and that's obviously the whole shtick here, instead doing it for firearms. It was such a funny, clever, yet somehow, I mean, believable is probably the wrong word, but it didn't feel like a stretch to me. I would also love to...
I would point out that besides the guy just being an upper class, professional presentation type thing, referring to him as a sommelier is a reasonable, just sort of like how all these different groups, cartels, mafias, whatever you want to call them, have other words for regular stuff. So, and part of that is so that you can have conversations where if you're overheard, you're not talking about something incriminating. So, hello, welcome. So, referring to him as the sommelier, well, it's real hard to pin you down on buying stuff from an arms dealer if the whole conversation sounds like it's talking about wine.
See his Brian Butterfield character recreate this scene.
Just look at me now. I feel like a new man.
We've had some deep cuts working together, but that might be top 5.
Well, as a sometime Peter Serafinowicz fan, I have seen Brian Butterfield live. So he sat in a seat not 3 seats away from me as he was pretending to be out of puff as he went to the stage.
Saturday is treat day. For 24 hours, you can literally eat anything.
I heard a weird noise in my ear there. What was that?
That was Chris typing in chat the words Hoisin Crispy Owl.
Amazing.
Okay.
Flared Magwell for easier reloads, and I know you'll appreciate the custom porting.
For all of the over-the-topness of this, and there is wine in here as well, by the way, so he is also a wine sommelier. We tend to overlook that point, I think. The stuff he's saying is accurate, but it also is relevant. The flared magwell, for example, he does so many magazine changes. You absolutely want a flared, additional competition-style flared magwell, and this is a competition-style pistol. If that wasn't already evident, this has come about through Keanu Reeves' training and sporting interest in three-gun competition and pistol shooting, practical pistol shooting. So he and the director and Taron, who was in on this franchise from the first movie, as far as I know. It's just that his stuff gets more prominent over time.
Yeah, I forgot there was actual wine in there.
I mean, we've seen that he favors a compensator on his HK, albeit it doesn't seem to work because the ports were closed. Here it does, and I believe we do see the flashing from the top of the muzzle. And then there's the pure style flourishes, really, of the hole in the slide, where you can see the titanium nitride gold barrel through there. It's very cool. I enjoyed this as a follow-on primary weapon, if you like, for John. It's still a practical weapon, something that you can shoot very well, very rapidly. So it's not like they've gone so boutique that it's not realistic and you wouldn't want to rely on it. This is another John Wick location I have been to.
No, show the rest!
I actually reconstructed the whole gunfight in Google Earth, I think it was, and with some photos that I took to work out where he comes in, where he comes out, and where he goes shooting people. Very, very nerdy but fun exercise. You can visit this. These are the Baths of Caracalla near Rome. They do events as well, so you could even go on a night when they're doing some sort of concert or something like this, which would be really cool.
I'm
to
unhappy.
Do, actually. And the catacombs, so-called catacombs, they're not actually really catacombs. Catacombs would involve dead people, are in fact under these buildings.
To be fair, they do involve dead people after the scene finishes.
Yeah, he sort of turns them into catacombs. Great fun to explore this as a archaeology graduate and gun person and movie person. This was kind of my happy place to roam around and tread the same ground.
I saw that, no pun
secretly hoping
intended.
To find a fired blank case. So he takes to this Glock very quickly over his HK. Why would he not be intimately familiar with how to run a Glock as well? That press check there was really nice. Don't approve of putting bullets in ancient monuments, needless to say. Normally, things like that little spin would have me rolling my eyes, but it just...
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a big thing. Anything that's behind a paywall, not being, I'm not reacting to anything behind a paywall. It's tempting sometimes, but no.
It just works here. The John Wick movies do that right. You know, even if I whinge about the later ones being a bit more chaotic and trying to beat this scene, the above ground bit and the below ground bit, you can't do better than this. The nightclub from the first one, especially the underground bit from this, I don't think can be surpassed. So that's part of the reason why I think that I like the first two so much. Yeah, they're chasing him here. Those skylights are actually there. This is all real. Very simple tactic to just wait round the corner and shoot them as they come around the corner. They do all suffer from henchman syndrome, and as great as that scene is.
There was a fantastic video of people like training or whatever, like in a combat scenario training type thing, and a fire team breaching, like one after another goes in the door and they all just go down. It's like they're watching the guy in front of them go down in the middle of this training and still going in, and no one thinks to pie plate, which is when you get as far back away as you can and move around at an angle, at a distance, in order to try to be able to get, increase the reaction time and the and the target confirmation of the other person, to where you can get that shot in, since you know you're coming in from a distance and they don't.
The films always integrate the firearms with the grappling and the jiu-jitsu stuff really well. Bringing weapons back in, changing things up. He's still got his pistol, which I would be a bit more worried about, frankly. I would like to disarm you before we go having a wrestling match, but easier said than done, I guess. And then he's tucking it behind the knee to slap in that magazine, which is a great, great move. Doesn't work out for him, and then we're back into the Continental. Quite lucky there that he didn't just pull the trigger, I think, because it looks like he wants to, which would have been problematic. Spoiler alert, it becomes problematic anyway. I'm not sure this scene makes geographical sense, by the way, because that courtyard is like 90% CGI on a stage, and then we crash through a window somewhere, and we're in the Continental. I don't know how that works. Unlike the catacombs scene, which mostly does work. Now, the infamous...
I have issues with this scene, too.
Should just have not included that. You could include this slowly moving through a public space scene. I think you should. The pew-pewiness... After every John Wick film, I would head straight to IMFDB and see what I'd missed. And one of the things that I didn't identify right off the bat was this 1911, which is a Smith & Wesson. Smith & Wesson, not the first brand you probably think of when you think of the Colt 1911. If anything, they were famous rivals back in the day. I think I saw this model at SHOT Show in 2013, which is just before this was filmed. So don't know to what extent we're looking at product placement in this film, I should say. Sometimes things are just used. Sometimes they are suggested, offered. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not saying that this is in the movie for that reason, but it was something that they were promoting at the time that I haven't heard much about since. But at the end of the day, it's a Colt 1911 patent pistol, which, by the way...
They're still flashing. They are not using subsonic ammo. Those guns are still going to be loud. You're still going to be hearing the crack of the bullets as they go by back and forth. 100%.
Traditionally didn't run very well with suppressors. Modern suppressors with the Nielsen device spring thing to decouple them so that the barrel isn't affected negatively. Get around that, and they, for a blank firing pistol that's operating on a blowback principle, essentially, doesn't really matter. And that would be the least of this scene's problems. The incredibly subdued pew-pew stuff, I physically rolled my eyes in the cinema watching this. It was the only thing that I mentally criticised and moved on from, because it doesn't really matter. But for people like me, it's an eyebrow raise, and it comes up all the time. People who don't like John Wick will point to this. It's an early sign of where this franchise went in terms of super heightened realism and an almost supernatural situation where people don't pay attention to what's going on around them. Yeah, you see, we are starting to see it there. Like, okay, they're super quiet somehow. People ought to be reacting. God, I've
people should be freaking out.
Horrific groin slash twice because I went back to check something.
Super quickly, but if you're enjoying this episode, we have a longer, deeper, extended edition over on our Patreon, plus over a dozen.
Oh, of course, that is where they put the rest of the small year.
Every single patron helps keep this channel and this project alive, but whether you support us on Patreon, follow along on YouTube, I want to say thank you for your support, thank you for watching, and now I will get back to the video.
7-round capacity.
So the infamous 7-round Kimber, he didn't even give him an 8-round magazine, which he could have done. So yeah, the thing with the Kimber, I remember a lot of chat at the time from gun-interested people. There used to be a fairly prestige 1911 brand. The LAPD SWAT had their... I remember playing the SWAT games, and they featured quite prominently. Sort of custom...
The 8 rounds have a little block down here at the bottom in order to get enough room between that and the spring to get the 8th round in there.
Some shop Kimber 1911s were their go-to pistols with a flashlight on them, and they were well respected. I think in the competition world as well, and I'm only reporting what was sort of said at the time, but by this time, when this film came out, certainly not so much. There was a bit of scoffing, or well, not even scoffing, but kind of that's an appropriate thing to give him. Like they've given him something that maybe in the 90s he'd have been pleased to have, but now he might not be that pleased to have, and he's only given him 7 rounds. So the speculation was that was done deliberately. I can't speak to the quality or reputation of Kimber right now, but this is what was said at the time, and I thought was interesting. Plot-wise, I think limiting his firepower like this is a great choice, but of course we end up in a bit of a gunfight, and he has to start picking up bad guys' guns, which is another great way heighten the tension, change things up. And he has to start wasting his rounds to not get shot, basically.
Yeah, that 7 rounds for $7 million goes very quickly there.
It does go quickly, but it gives him enough. You know, we've all done this in video games. We use what we have in order to pick up something off an enemy. He's essentially using the...
That is my preferred way to do some missions in Star Citizen, for the record. I will take an empty backpack, a pistol, and some pistol ammo, and just harvest as I go.
bad guys as a walking arsenal. You see, the curators are not going to be happy. Not only have you got blood all over everything, that bullet's got to go somewhere. That backwards, upside down shooting, not normally recommended, but if you really were a one-man army, then yeah. And the throw, I love the cut to the wide shot. I can only imagine how many takes all this took to nail.
I love that this scene's so good. We've just both gone really quiet and I'm just simply watching it now.
It's not good video, is it? But it's absolutely the case, and it's why a lot of this is actual reaction and not just me going, now here's the bit where he uses this gun to do things. Because A, it's been a while, and B, it switches my brain off. When stuff is this good, that one-handed press check is another.
I have done that. I feel cool every time I do that.
Matrix Revolutions, which has its problems, is the double press check like that. Love it there. I don't know who did that first on film. That would be an interesting trivia. Answers in the comments. Who did the one-handed press check first? Back to more interesting gun casting. This is one of those, as we've said about video games like Battlefield, where they go.
Wait a minute.
Of those. Back to more interesting.
I don't think that's aligned properly. Does that look tilted up to you? I don't think that, because that can happen with silencers. That can actually happen. I think that is not aligned properly and is tilted up a little bit. Which means if he fires that for real, it will hit the bottom of the suppressor on the way out, causing a barrel strike. Those are very destructive to the suppressors. Those can jam the gun. If you're firing in rapid succession, those can explode the gun. That's not good. A baffle strike, not a battle strike. A baffle strike. If it twists it the wrong way, you can end up with a blocked end there, which means the next time you pull the trigger, boom.
Gun casting. This is one of those, as we've said about video games like Battlefield, where they go with what's upcoming and cool on the assumption that it's maybe something that's going to be around a lot in the future. This Arsenal Strike 1, this is something else I saw at SHOT Show, the one time that I've been, as something a bit new and interesting. This is very much Bondian in how it treats guns as fashion. Certainly John Wick 2 onwards. You know, he's got
that's not tilted.
Distinctive kind of.
But it looked tilted in the other angle.
Frame, which is almost like the lining of a suit jacket. You know, it's been custom worked over by somebody, maybe the sommelier, don't know, and it's distinctive to his character. Nobody else in the movie or any of the other movies, I don't think, has this pistol. If I think I'm right in saying, I'm not a huge fan of the big old gap between the dust cover and the front of the slide and actually, I call that a compensator. That's his suppressor, isn't it?
Yeah, the world's tiniest yet most effective suppressor.
Although, in terms of volume, it isn't much different to some of the other tiny cylindrical ones that we see, which are usually just a straight-through tube, Hollywood thing. Definitely not enough volume there to give you that pew-pew effect. It is maybe foreshadowing some of the later real-world suppressors where you can snap together modules and make something that genuinely does. Or the Maxim.
There's the Maxim 9.
That does that, but there are also standalone suppressors that let you do that as well. This isn't that. This is just, this will be a movie prop, but it's intended to be a suppressor. It's actually what I thought about John's compensator in the first movie. Something of a similar sort of form factor. If that had been a Hollywood suppressor, would have been interesting. I was probably just channeling my increasingly dim memory of this scene where that's exactly what they do for Common's character.
I need something robust, precise.
And we're back to the sommelier.
Yay!
I love the idea that he's thinking this up on the fly. Now, let's pause it there. So this is Taran Tactical TR1, I think. So this setup is, well, frankly, it still holds up pretty well, but it's very much of the moment of 2016. 2-gun and 3-gun competition, which Keanu was involved with by this point. And this whole setup is geared towards that. We're told there that's an 11.5-inch barrel.
Compensated with an iron-bonded bolt carrier, Trigicon Acupoint.
I have a cheap version of one of those.
Again, all of the stuff he's told is what's actually there. Now,
The
naming things
scope.
correctly, if there is product placement-y type, licensing type arrangements going on, there's probably an incentive to get the names right. But absolutely no problem. I've no problem with a can of Coke on a table because people drink cans of Coke off tables, so why would I have a problem if that's what's going on here? And he's staging these weapons ahead of time, making sure that they're loaded. We get a nice view of the setup there. With the double mags are interesting, but given the firepower he needs to bring to bear, clamping the mags, yeah, why not? The use of rapid semi-automatic fire was a big plus for this, I think. In the first movie, he's firing on automatic with the Kahari arms. Here, it's much more clinical. And as for the reloads, so this was great to see the reloads. I remember even on first viewing thinking, those look like extended magazines. He's reloading quicker than he needs to. And I think what's happened there is they've shot all the footage, they've got all the coverage they need. They're then editing it into an entertaining, logical sequence, as logical as they can make it. And they've either had to include more reloading than necessary, or they have deliberately included more reloading than necessary because it's damn cool. And other people aren't necessarily paying attention.
Could you recommend?
There is also an argument to be made that he doesn't know what he's going to run into next, so he wants the full magazine instead of the 10-ish rounds that he may have left. Just saying.
For the end of the night, something big, bold.
Something for the end of the night, indeed. So yeah, we didn't even have this for a long time. We're very glad to get. It's a real it's a real Benelli M4, but it's very much stock. It is not tricked out with TTI gubbins.
Festooned with TTI gubbins.
Festooned. I wouldn't say nonsense though. This is okay. It's more of a competition shotgun, perhaps. But it's the same kind of length and capacity and capability as the real thing, and the real thing has been used in actual combat as well. And just upping the ante by moving to the shotgun. That scene where he pins the guy to the floor before he single loads is incredible. And we're back to the tunnels. We get that punchier sound effect. This scene would not work without without good sound design. We can see the match saver round there up on the fore end. So when you need to make that last shot in a match and you have a round ready to just slip into the chamber, and he uses it as more of a lifesaver than a match saver before reverting to his pistol. And of course we have transitions to the pistol while he's moving. The whole movie, or the whole scene I should say, the whole extended scene was written around 3-gun competition. Carbine, pistol, shotgun. He's switching between those 3 weapons in a way that a hitman typically wouldn't do. It's because he'd been doing so much training and they wanted to showcase his ability. So that scene there where he's loading that so-called grenade launcher, well, we have one of those. This is the original flavor, classic version from the 80s. This is actually the Arwen, the anti-riot Enfield. So it's not a grenade launcher at all. It is a riot gun.
Tear gas canisters are arguably grenades.
It's for shooting plastic bullets or tear gas. In fact, there was a whole suite of rounds for it. So they've obviously liked the look of it, how it works. And actually, how it works, by the way, we have a video on this on our channel at the Royal Armouries. Do check it out. But it actually ratchets the insert Philomena Kunk here.
You're right to say it looks clockwork. It's very like a clock mechanism.
I'm sorry, what?
Inside.
Ratchet.
A ratchet.
It ratchets the round forward to obturate, fires it, and then, because it's pre-wound, throws the empty at the camera. And obviously it has multiple rounds on board.
I was already laughing about Philomena Kunk before you even said insert the clip.
I'm proud of my brain for making me say that. So make no mistake, this is a non-lethal launcher, and it's not like something.
That's not a crossover I thought we were going to get tonight.
That can launch less lethal ammo. It is purely less lethal. There's no chamber. It cannot support the pressure even of a 40 mil low pressure round. So completely unrealistic weapon to use. They obviously like the look of it and the way it functioned and the visible way that it loads. But that open cylinder and the very relatively weak barrel wouldn't stand up to whatever the heck that explosive round is that he's just fired there. So a weird choice, but an interesting one at least.
He's saying no. I'm saying it's a launcher. It's not going to be as far of range, but you can absolutely get rounds out. All it's got to do is launch something, and you're good to go.
Well, John Wick 1 and 2, and to a lesser extent 3. I mean, they're all amazing movies. All 4 of them showcase amazing firearms, amazing action, and the wonderful Keanu Reeves. Real soft spot in my heart for the first 2. They are up in my top 10 action movies of all time. So fantastic to be able to take another run through and think and talk about the guns of John Wick.
Do enjoy your party.
Thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to let us know in the comments below if you want to see us cover the rest of the John Wick franchise. As always,
oh come on, they know the
shout out
answer.
To all of our supporters over on Patreon for helping make this channel, these videos, and this project happen. Links to support the Royal Armouries will be in the description below, so be sure to check those out. But until we see each other in the next episode, thank you again for watching, for liking, commenting, subscribing, all of that good stuff. We will see you very soon.
Somebody please get this man a gun.
Yeah, they know that they're going to, and we need to watch the Great Circle one. I did not realize that we were missing that. Yeah, John Wick movies, amazing. Jonathan Ferguson reacting to the John Wick movies, amazing. Apparently, the suppressor gunshots in a crowd and no one reacting scene was a small nod to the numerous cuts they apparently had to do while filming the first film. Apparently, they had normal people continuously walk into the frame oblivious to the fact they were filming a movie and had to cut so often. The joke apparently is that New Yorkers are oblivious to everything around them and they don't notice anything. I hate that I believe that. I hate that I believe that. Oh, that hurts. Given that when you put that in New York and think about all the stuff that happens in New York, that just people walk by all the time. So the guns aren't perfectly whisper silent. They're just being ignored. Oh, I hate how real that is. Oh, that hurts. That stings. That. I feel that in my soul. I feel that one in my soul. That doesn't make me happy, but it is probably true. That's right. Which, again, talking about the little ones. Like I said, the idea behind the little ones is to make the firearm especially in an enclosed environment like indoors, less miserable to shoot, not to make it whisper silent. Those guns would 100% not be whisper silent, especially if they're using enough powder to be throwing out flashes and smoke. But yeah, the idea that they're just ignored because it's New York and New Yorkers are awful, that's depressingly believable. And I know that a lot of that stuff is like, okay, we're getting into some nonsense here, but that doesn't change how awesome it is to see. He's right about some of that stuff. I don't think I have anything with a flared magwell. I don't have anything with a flared magwell. I could probably print a couple flared magwells if I wanted to. But I do not anticipate needing to do instantaneous reloads. Holy smokes. Maybe we'll look at some stuff of Keanu Reeves doing his... Actually, you know what? We are really close to the end. We might as well just have a quick look at him doing him doing some of these. Yeah, let's do that. It's only a minute long, so this won't take very long. But yeah, he's a monster. So this is from 511 Tactical.
People want realism, they want the real deal, and that's what's happening with John Wick Chapter 2. It is setting the bar so far beyond any shootout stuff you'll ever see in a movie. It'll blow your mind.
When I got called from the director, he said, what can we do to make 2 better? And I was like, well, we have to make Keanu Reeves better. And the only way to do that is to train him harder. And as soon as I met Taron and I saw him shoot, I was like, this is our guy.
When it comes to actors, Taron can deliberate his actions. We can watch someone do one run and he can pinpoint every problem that you have and you can relate it so simply that it is ingrained quick.
We brought Keanu out here 3 times a week, and his growth with gunplay, it was almost exponential every other time he would come here.
He got really good over a period of 5 or 6 training sessions, and he is hands down the best weapons actor out there right now.
And I attribute that directly to Taron Butler's skills as an instructor.
That's a little 9mm.
690.
Mommy, 2 minutes shoot each other. Yes, dear. This is New York, you'll get used to it. So I noticed something with that little 9mm AR. I call it little because it's firing 9mm instead of 5.56. Listen to the noise it makes.
I attribute that directly to Taron Butler's skills as an instructor.
Was it actually doing the video game thing where when you reach the end of the magazine it rattles more? None of my guns do that. What the heck? I want a gun that does that. I want a gun that does that. How do I get magazines that rattle when they're empty? That would be awesome. That would be so good. It's a custom yeah, that's... Okay, yeah, that would actually make sense. Yeah, that would make sense. Custom competition mags, which means they're like 90 to 100 bucks a magazine. No. I 3D print my own Glock mags, for pit's sakes. I'm not paying 90 bucks per mag. I'd rather spend that money on my bullets. But that would be so awesome. just to have that like last round or 2 rattle to be like, all right, reload time before you've even fired the last shot. Like in video games. But yeah, Keanu Reeves is a master. Which explains why when he takes on all these different roles, because he's been in so many, where he has to be a combatant, that he is so good at it. Might need to look up a design for... I mean, Glock... I think there's only one 3D printable Glock mag design, which is the Menendez. Named after Senator Menendez, who wanted to ban magazines. So they designed a 3D printable magazine and named it after him. There's the Menendez, the Mini Menendez, and the Extendez. For the 3 different sizes. Because you don't understand, the 3D printing community is a bunch of trolls. Well, yeah, for rattling in general, yeah. But, I mean, I'd probably have to design it myself, because those are the magazine designs that are available. I wonder how you do that. Obviously, you'd have to have something in there that rattles. But how do you get it to only rattle at the very end? Huh. I'm going to have to work on that. Obviously, we don't really have time to get into a game. We're really at the wind down point of the evening. Keanu Reeves is awesome. John Wick is awesome. I am sorry about the about missing the chrono. I had to see the John Wick stuff. It's John Wick. John Wick is awesome. So, yeah. We will be back next weekend. We'll have to see about the weekend after that. I will announce when I can. I will try to set up for some additional like mini streams or some other kind of mini content. Like I said, there's already a bunch of stuff on some of the AI things like LM Studio, but it feels like it's mostly just like only the very AI specific people are finding it. So maybe something that's a little more out there for anyone. I don't know. Spring tension. Yeah, but it's like the spring needs to be so strong in order to be able to reliably get the bullet up and into the magazine in the time it takes for the gun to cycle. So it's still, the spring has to be so tense. That's where the problem is. The spring has to have so much tension in it so that when you're at the last round, before you've fired it all, it's still snappy enough to get that round up more or less instantly. Ratchet teeth just at the top of the mag that the follower drags on just in the last few rounds. Problem is, could I print that? There's not a lot of room in the magazines. Screw it. Give me that. Oh, sorry. I'm just looking at the magazine. I don't know. I don't know if I have room to put something in there. That's really pushing it. I say, though, I am looking at this also with the rounds in it, though, at the same time, with the rounds in it is kind of how you, how you'd have to, well, there's some room at the front. Oh, no, that's because I'm using this kind of round. Right. If I swap away from these, which are flat nose squashes, they're not fragmentation, they're not hollow point, but they're designed to like still really flatten out, and they've got a little bit of a hotter load in them. But that does still, they're not the regular geometry, and like round 9mm is gonna have a little bit wider. So I'm not sure how you would fit. Not sure how you would fit fit the ratchet teeth in there. It's definitely an idea, though. But you need to make room for multiple kinds of rounds especially if you want to have room for either like snake shot or those types of those defense rounds are just like a big cylinder and aren't pointed at all. If you want those to fit in the magazine, which, you know, admittedly on a competition magazine, they're probably not worrying about that at all. They're using competition rounds. They're not worried about firing the heavier rounds. Yeah, as you just said, but yeah, that might work. Question is how to do it in this form factor, if I'm going to do it in this form factor, which this is the only form factor I could use. Yeah, because and it would have to start there on the magazine. Something to think about. Ha! So we just managed to spend the last, like, 10 minutes trying to figure out, wait, how do we do this? I don't have one out with me. But I might dig out one of my 3D printed AR-15 magazines and see if there's other alternatives for those as well. Because I could 3D print those as well. Those are the two types of magazines I can 3D print right now, are AR-15 and Glock, which are also the two that are like, they keep trying to ban. So of course they're the most 3D printable magazines out there. Why wouldn't they be? I saw someone that did a 3D printed drum, and I have to find the designs for it, because I've tried and I cannot get something like that to work, and that would be wild to just be like, okay, here's my giant 800 round drum that I 3D printed. I use it in my Glock 26. That's so stupid, because the 26 is reasonably small for a compact gun. Anyways. Next week there's a Zyx blows up a mag and they would not hear me over the dogs barking. Anyways. Stuff for next week. If you're getting an 800 round Glock mag to work, you need to work for Glock Direct. Someone else did it. It was like this giant thing. I kid you not. It was like 2 feet in diameter. A massive 3D printed Glock magazine drum type thing with a ridiculous round count. And I need the STL for it. I have been looking for like 3 years and haven't been able to find it. Anyways. I don't think I have any announcements. Like I said, I will be attempting to set myself up for a little short, like 20-minute, 30-minute stream excursion things. I might do an AI video, though I keep saying this stuff and then it never happens. I know, I'm awful. But hopefully, fingers crossed. In the meantime, though, I thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a great week. Stay safe. Enjoy yourself, and I will see you next time.